Hello, race fans, and welcome to Saddle Up, which you can hear on Horse Racing World Channel. Saddle Up with Steve and Jay. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Belmont Stakes. We're going to recap that. We're also going to recap the Met Mile, which was run about an hour or so before that. And also we're going to talk a little bit about the San Juan Capistrano. Jay and I are each going to give you a selection on the Saturday card out at Santa Anita. A couple of races there for you. And we're also going to talk about the San Juan Capistrano, which is the closing day card out at Santa Anita. They're going to close down for a little while there. But Jay, want to welcome you to the show. How's everything going, my friend?
It's going great, Steve. Looking forward to Santa Anita winding down and Del Mar winding up. It's the best season coming with Del Mar and Saratoga. I can't wait.
Absolutely, Jay. Saratoga and Del Mar. It's really like the candy store will be open. But the first thing we want to do is we want to thank a couple of our new sponsors. Jay, we've got a couple of new people involved, and one is Merino Shoes. And at merinoshoes.com, that's MERINO shoes.com. And these are some fabulous looking shoes. They're slip-on type shoes. They're very breathable. And they have offered a $10 discount. And all you have to do is punch in saddle up. Saddle up. Will get you a $10 discount. But go to their website and check out their shoes. They're fabulous shoes, Jay. But you want to check those out. We're going to check out the Belmont Stakes here, and just wanted to get your take on the Belmont Stakes. Why don't you start it out, and I will comment afterward. But the Belmont Stakes, a terrific race, and Sovereignty showed up, and he certainly proved that he was the goods.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at that race right now, Steve. And it was a clean break, nothing funny in the beginning. And as expected, Rodriguez goes right to the front. And also as expected, you saw Crudo, as expected, challenging him right away. I was kind of a little surprised that that course specialist Uncaged was up there early, but he wasn't up there very long.
Yeah, actually, what surprised me was how close Sovereignty was, and it really just sort of reminded me of a race for when I way back when I first started in horse racing, when you're trying to beat a quality horse and they just are in an unexpected spot. I mean, look where he is right now. He's right there. He's sitting lap just behind the leaders and in a perfect spot. He's not losing too much ground. And he's only a length and a half or two off, maybe three at the most, when he just kind of backs out of it down the backside. But I mean, the fact that he was in front of Baeza was surprising to me, and I really thought that that was where Baeza was going to perhaps upset this horse. Now, it didn't end up that there was really any value, I don't think, in the race. But being right is sometimes really important, and there are other ways to skin a cat, maybe in a pick five or something like that. But just very surprised and very impressed that the horse was that close early and that he was that fresh. And boy, he sure did prove best in this race, Jay.
Oh yeah, and you looked at the fractions. It was a 23 quarter and a 47 half. Those are a little too fast, going a mile and a quarter for the front runners to last. And no surprise that Rodriguez and Crudo, who dropped out of it much sooner, Rodriguez still up there for a while, had nothing left. And here comes journalism, and here comes sovereignty.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, it was really a no contest. As soon as he got into Sovereignty, it was all over. And then this guy just gallops out great. Just a spectacular effort there. I was a little disappointed in Crudo. One thing I'll say about Crudo, I hate being second early. I just think it's a tough spot to be in a long race. It's definitely a bad spot to be in a turf race because you're losing ground and you're tracking outside that leader. And the winner did win from there last year, so it can be done. But gosh, I just get such an uncomfortable feeling. And that was the horse that I really thought was the one that could possibly upset the apple cart. And I do want to say another thing. I don't have any regrets about jumping off of Sovereignty. You can't have favoritism in this game, and I felt like there was perhaps some value, and I played some exotics, and it came all favorites. It was never going to be a race that I was going to make a score at when that shorter price when those short price horses are running 1, 2, 3 like that. So I don't have any regrets about the way I played the race. But Beza was the very disappointing horse to me because I thought that horse would be more fresh. I thought he would show more speed. I thought he was going to be in front of Sovereignty, and he certainly proved that he's not quite as good as those top two. But I certainly think the top three have a bright future. Maybe in 6 months, maybe Baeza can make it up. Give him some time and grow into it. But right now, boy, oh boy, it sure looks like Sovereignty and Journalism are a lot better. I'm not taking that much away from Journalism, Jay, because he had to run. He didn't skip any of the dances. He's clearly the second best horse, and I thought he ran a good race as well. So the top two have really surged in front of the rest.
Yeah, no question about it. Baeza was definitely a disappointment. He was never a threat at any point in the race to make the lead, and he kind of plotted up for third when he has more natural speed than that. But it seems like at this point, Journalism and Sovereignty have probably developed past what he was when they were coming up this winter in races like the San Felipe and the Santa Anita Derby. And Baeza's got some catching up to do, and we'll of course see if he's able to do it. Right now, he's definitely a notch below those top two. And I'm still not going to forget about Tapan Street, who beat Sovereignty on the square. I still want to see what that guy can do when he recovers from that
Good
condylar
point.
fracture. And maybe we'll see him in some of the later races this fall, things like the Whitney or the Woodward. And would love to see him make it a big three in the big Breeders' Cup Classic races instead of just the big two. But right now we've got quite a big two that we can look forward to.
Well, you mentioned before that some of these horses can go to lesser races and perhaps be competitive. So I wouldn't give up on any of those horses. They are pretty lightly raced, and who knows, by the end of the year, maybe they could turn the tides. But certainly right now, those are the dominant horses. Also, earlier in the card, the Met Mile, and this was the race that I made a little bit of money on, and it was a horse named Raging Torrent that was able to get to the lead and prove that he really does have some quality to him. And I was a little bit worried about shipping from overseas. Always got to worry about that, but he had been given some time, and I did get the thumbs up from the clockers that he had been training well. Sometimes you can see the works in the form, but I did actually make a phone call to a clocker, and I'm possibly going to give his name out here soon. I'm talking to him about perhaps doing a little bit of something with us, but I'm going to hold that off for now. But this is something that I do from time to time, and he ended up texting me back that this horse had trained really well. He came on the track, Jay, and he really didn't look great. He was a little bit washed out. But I went back to the old memory bank, clicked in, and I remembered this is exactly how he looked in the Pat O'Brien. And he ended up winning that race and running very impressively, beating the Chosen Brawn. So sometimes looks can be a little bit deceiving. And I think if you know these horses regularly, and that's something that you use in your handicapping, that sometimes you can know, hey, this is a horse that looked that way before. And he really went out and he ran one heck of a race and won that Met Mile and got the job done in a 5-horse race paying $18. And
Yeah,
again,
no
I
question.
know Fierceness was a little bit disappointing, but
Yeah.
this is a horse that's done that before, Jay. He's had some disappointing efforts. If you look at him, every time he runs good, he has run. He's had 3 efforts before that were not good, and this just happened to be the 4th one.
Yeah. So first, shout out to our radio colleague, Mr. Scott Kaplan of KSPN 710, who is a part owner of Raging Torrent and was laughing all the way to the bank. He enjoyed that trip to the Middle East where Raging Torrent ran in, I believe it was was it
The Golden Shaheen.
the Golden Shaheen, yes, and I
Yeah.
think he finished third in the Golden Shaheen. Yeah, he did okay there, and then came back and obviously ran very well here. Yeah, $18 is an amazing price, Steve. You knocked off a monster. I mean, Fierceness was arguably at this point because Sierra Leone is not all the way back. Fierceness was arguably the best horse in training. What made you think Raging Torrent could do it?
Well, I knew how good Raging Torrent was, and again when he beat the Chosen Brawn. But if you go back to the first race where they put blinkers on Raging Torrent, his first race out at Churchill Downs, that race was unbelievable. In fact, that was the Derby. It was Kentucky Derby Day, and it was run after the Kentucky Derby. And they run all those $1 million races at 7 furlongs. They run the one for the girls and one for the boys at 7 furlongs. And he ran a race that was a second and a half faster, geared down than the Grade One race later in the card after. And I knew from that point that this was going to be a really, really good horse.
Yeah.
And he didn't fire Breeders' Cup Day. He drew the rail, and I got to tell you, the Clockers absolutely did not like the way he was working before the Breeders' Cup. And he drew the rail that day. That's a terrible spot to be in. Maybe he wants a little more than 6 furlongs. I think 7, maybe even a mile. I'm not sure where they're going to go with him now, but that was it was a very, very good play, I believe, at 8-1, especially on a track that's speed favoring.
Yeah, I think the race he beat the Chosen Brawn, that was 6.5. So I do think 6 is a little bit short.
It was
Uh,
7 that he beat the Chosen Brawn.
was it 7? Okay.
7,
Yeah,
Pat
yeah.
O'Brien.
Yeah, definitely wants a longer distance than just the basic sprint distance. Now, the big disappointment in the race was White Barrio. I mean, he showed absolutely nothing. What do you think, Steve? Do you think maybe he just didn't like the wet track?
6-year-olds, couple big races. It's hard to keep these horses fit. I mean, just going to go right to the sheets on that horse. It just looked like a horse that had run not quite as good in his last race. Some people would call that an O2X. I had a feeling he wasn't going to run as well, and I know the inconsistency with fierceness, and then the fact that you added speed play on there. Obviously, it turned out to be the right situation. But White Barrio, give him some time again, and maybe he bounces back.
Very good. Yeah, he's been kind of an in and out throughout of his career, and yeah, had a couple of those big races last year, and then had a couple of really bad ones, and then shows up and surprises me. I didn't think he was capable of winning the Breeders' Cup Classic, and yet he did. So maybe he's not finished yet. We'll find out.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't give up on these handicap horses. They do go in and out. And you and I were partners with the guys at Thoroughgraph. We've had a lot of experience with the sheets, and that's their whole theory. And their theories are very, very good, and they seem to work the best in long dirt races on handicap horses. Now, that was only a mile, that race there, but I think they work the best with long races, and they just find a way for these handicap horses when they're going to run good and when they're not going to run good. And that looked like a horse that could possibly run a negative race on that day, and he did.
Mm, definitely.
All right, Jay, we're going to pick it up with a couple of Santa Anita plays. And you've got one picked out, and I've got one picked out, and then we're going to talk about the San Juan Capistrano. And I believe your race is going to be the 12th. This is the last race at Santa Anita on the Saturday card. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, we're going to look at race 12 here, and the morning line favorite at 3-1 is Ride Gold, son of a daughter of Clubhouse Ride. And this one certainly has done nothing wrong, has gotten better every race in the two races since going on turf. The first race was a sprint and finished, made the lead and finished only a half length back. And then the last time out, stretch out to a mile and liked it, almost got there, finished a neck back. And so Ride Gold is certainly going to be the favorite. I think that 3-1 price will be bet down a little bit. And I think that'll help my choice, who's on the outside. It's another daughter of Clubhouse Ride. It's Ride Elbow Ranch. And Ride Elbow Ranch has a pattern that I like to see. It's like an even run where it's up close at most of the calls and then finishes improving a little bit toward the end. What I hate to see on stretching out sprinters is when they come from way out of it, 10 lengths back, and then they fly late at the end. To me, that's a sprint pattern, and often those horses do not do well when they're stretching out around 2 turns. But Ride Elbow Ranch has what I'm looking for as far as 2 turns. Mark Glad is again having a strong meet. 22% is kind of average for him. And
It really
but
is. Boy, he's terrific.
yeah, but his percentages at this kind of maneuver, first time going 2 turns, 28%, and the second grass race, 29%. So this is exactly the kind of race that Mark Ladd excels at. And teaming up with Antonio Ferzu, who's having a strong meet himself, with 18% wins. Those guys team up for 27% wins together. So I'm looking for Ride Elbow Ranch. I think the disadvantage is obviously the outside post, and Frizou's going to have to use them a little early to get position. But I don't think there's that much right inside of him that he can't get to a better position without expending too much energy. So liking Ride Elbow Ranch to eventually get on the shoulder, press the pace of his half sister there, Ride Gold, and eventually pull on by her in the stretch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use those two on top, and for the third horse we're going to use number 10, California Rocks, who was right behind Ride Gold in the debut, and this one, finished started kind of well back and then closed late, but that was in a route race. So that one certainly has plenty of ground to improve. Just came back with a bullet 46.3 at San Luis Rey Downs, and I think California Rocks has a chance to be a factor here without actually being the winner. So I'm going to play it like this. I'm going to put California Rocks in the second slot, and I'm going to play Ride Gold and the other one that I like, my actual pick, Ride Elbow Ranch on top. So it'll be 8-12, and then add the 10 in the second slot. So it'll be 8-12 with 10-8-12 with all. And I'm really hoping that somebody just burns Ride Gold out on the pace and we get a 12-10 and a big long shot for third. That's what you always hope when you're handicapping. So
Jay, what's the
that
morning
is
line on your top horse there?
what's that, Steve?
What is the morning line on your top horse?
The top horse is 7-2.
Okay. Would this be a win bet for you as well?
It would be a win and place bet, yes.
Win and place bet. Okay. All right. I'm going to go to race number 10, which is the Daytona down the hill, 6.5 furlongs. And I do see a little bit of pace in here, Jay, with Goliad. Goliad's had a couple of efforts down this hill, and we know this horse is a very, very fast horse early. He's kind of a runoff. And, he's going to get in front. And if he beats you, he beats you here. I don't like the way this horse ran last time out, although it wasn't a good spot for him. He comes out of that King of Gosford race. The horse I like is the first-time 4-year-old here, coming off a little bit of a layoff here for Pete Urton. And that is a horse named Stay Hot, the 5-horse Stay Hot. He's 6-1 in the morning line. Juan Hernandez rides. He comes out of all the 3-year-old races this summer that I didn't think were the best races, I got to say. I didn't love King of Gosford, and he did win last time in the Shoemaker Mile. But I think this down the hill race, he did run down the hill before. I love the work pattern, and this is the right time for a 4-year-old. And we're going to talk a little bit more about layoffs, but this horse has a lot of things that I like off the layoff. He's got at least 5 works. He's got a very, very capable trainer. And I think down the hill is a really good race for these layoff horses to run. Whereas I don't think they have to do as much running. So I think this is a good spot for him, and I love the way this horse accelerates. I'm going to play him to win. I'm going to use 3 horses in the exotics. Air Force Red is a ridiculous 8-1. That's too high for him. I don't like the post position for this one, but I think this one will fire as he's run very, very well down the hill. The 6 Lovesick Blues is another one that I think is a little bit too high in the price. And the favorite Notorious, I'm going to use him. This is certainly a world-class horse. He finished second in the Breeders' Cup, just 2 races back. But tell you what, that's a very, very short number on him, and I think he's beatable here, carrying top weight. And it's Diamato off the layoff, and I always like to play a little bit against this trainer off of this type of a layoff, but mostly it's because Notorious is 7. He's a 7-year-old. I'm going to try to beat this 7-year-old coming off a 6-month layoff. So it's the play here is the 5 Stay Hot. I'm going to play him to win, and I'm going to play 2 trifectas in here using the 1 Air Force Red, the 6 Lovesick Blues, and the 7 Notorious. It's 5 with the 1, 6, 7. The key play in the race, the win bet here on number 5, Stay Hot. That's the 10th race out of Santa Anita.
Yeah, I've got to say, Steve, Stay Hot's been a model of consistency, finishing within 2 lengths or less and being in the exact 4 of the last 5 times. And I thought that horse really picked up and ran maybe its best race in a long time with Juan Hernandez taking over from Frizzou. And you know I'm a Frizzou fan, but Hernandez is still the king of Santa Anita, especially when Flavian's out of town, which he is about half the year. So I just think, he's in the right hands. Peter Urton and Juan Hernandez together have had some huge meets where they've clicked for something like 50 or 60% wins. So, yeah, I can see your case for Stay Hot. I think he's got a solid shot here.
All right, Jay, I mentioned one other thing here, and that was that we were going to talk a little bit about layoffs. We're going to have some horses coming off a layoff at the beginning of Del Mar with this little gap. So I thought this might be a good time to give everybody some of the ideas of some of the things that we're looking for in these layoff horses. And I think one of the keys to the layoff, the first thing that I always look for is how old is the horse? What type of layoff, how long is the layoff, and how old is the horse? Because I think there's big variables there. If you've got a 2-year-old and it's late in the season and this horse hasn't run for 5 or 6 months, there's all sorts of grow up time. But there's reasons for me not to like that 2-year-old layoff. I'm going to come back to that. If it's a 3-year-old and we're at this time of the year and this horse hasn't run since he was a 2-year-old and he ran well as a 2-year-old, there's all sorts of pluses and minuses, again, to the 2-year-old and the 3-year-old. When you get to 5 and 6, a 5-year-old that started as a 2-year-old, to me, that's too much. And it's very tough coming off a layoff, especially if it's a long time. And then 6 and 7, the longer these horses get. Obviously, a lot of it, Jay, is going to depend on who the trainer is and what the work pattern is. I would look at those two things. And if you can get additional information from a clocker, that's always something that I certainly do use on the Southern California circuit. But look at the pattern and make sure this horse doesn't have gaps in their works when they're trying to come back off of these layoffs. I don't necessarily need to see super fast works, but I do want to see activity. And I don't want to see these huge gaps of 10 or 15 days where these horses haven't worked and then they come back and they work a couple works again. So I don't want to see a spotty work pattern, want to see consistency. If the works are fast, that's fine. I'd rather see a grade on the work from a clocker if I can. So I don't necessarily need to see the fast work, but I do want to see some morning activities. But that age is super important to me. If I see a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, those are the ones that I'm most excited about because those are horses that really have time to grow up. And when I see 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds, generally they're geldings. And those are horses that are laid off because something was not right with those horses. Now, there might be other stipulations. Maybe they just gave the time to freshen the horse up. But to me, when you get to be older, there's reasons that you take time off. Whereas when you're younger, a lot of the times these horses just need time to grow into themselves, and they will really, really improve and run that good race off the layoff, where some people are just like, they look at a layoff and they're like, man, I'm not playing it. And Jay, believe me, it's all about value still in this game. You're still looking for horses that are going to outrun their odds if you're trying to be a winning player. And we hope you're listening to this because you want to be a winning player and you think we can help you, because that's what we're trying to do. And I think these layoff horses are an opportunity. So I think age is very important. I think work pattern is very important. Certainly trainer statistics are very important. There are trainers that do very well off the layoff, and I'd rather see the numbers be very good than to see a trainer that's 0 for 20 or 30. When you're looking at these statistics for trainers, make sure you're using a big enough sample. If you see 0 for 3, 0 for 4, Jay, that's just not a big enough sample, is it? You want to see bigger numbers in the sample. So if you're looking at trainer statistics, make sure there's a big enough sample to make that a fact. And if you see something where there's 30 or 40 horses off a layoff where the guys had 40 attempts and none of them have won, well, then maybe that's in a negative fashion. But and negative numbers, negative information can be just as good as positive information in this particular case. But I think those trainer patterns are very important. Maybe even more important than the workouts themselves, but I want to see consistency in those works as well. Those are a few things that I would look at for layoff horses.
Yeah, no question. What you just mentioned about the older geldings especially, normally, obviously they're not saving them for stud, so they've got to earn their keep around the barn to keep in training, and they're going to try to run them as much as they humanly can. So chances are you're right. If some 7-year-old gelding goes on the shelf, there's a very good chance it was because something was wrong. Maybe it was a minor injury, maybe it was a more serious injury. Maybe the horse was a little bit ouchy. And then if they start missing works, if they come back from that layoff and suddenly, like you say, there's a gap, it could be that injury's not fully healed or has reoccurred. And obviously, a lot of times these older geldings are put in claimers where they're not trying to keep them, but they're trying to unload them. And very important thing that I always look at with these layoff horses, were they wearing front wraps before they went on the shelf? Are they wearing them now? That's not a good sign if you see front wraps on a horse that wasn't wearing it before. And then if you see front wraps like in the most recent race, and then there's a big plunge in the price, it goes from, 60,000 to, 15, 12,000, something like that, you can tell that's like a giveaway sale. You might say, wow, big class advantage, but not necessarily. What you see isn't always what you get. And there's a reason why they don't give away anything for free on this circuit or any circuit. So, what I look at in terms of layoffs myself, the first thing I always I'm drawn to when I see there's a layoff is I look at the trainer percentage off a layoff. And they've made this very easy now. There used to be basically an industry where horse people that wrote these things would sell these statistics. There was a guy named Ed Bain. Some of our listeners probably remember that name. He had a book called Layoffs and Claims, and he would publish annual guides where the horses would, he would go back four different layoffs, like first, second, third, and fourth off the layoff. Very, very detailed minutia that was very useful because most players didn't have it. So now Ed Bain is no longer showing up on the website. I'm not sure if he's still with us or if he just decided that he couldn't really make a living anymore because now Daily Racing Form and Brisnet and Thoroughgraph and many others publish these percentages. Maybe not all of them. Maybe you won't get the fourth off the layoff. They'll publish the most pertinent ones. And so I'm looking at a horse, I'm looking for a trainer generally that will be, at least 20% off the layoff to interest me. And if I see something like 10% off the layoff wins, hell, that means 90% of them lost. So, that's really kind of a red flag to me. It's like it shows me that the trainer is not trying to win first off the layoff, but maybe he's conditioning for second off the layoff. I know this might shock some of our fans, Steve, but these trainers have been known to bet. And it's very possible that they'll tank that first race off the layoff and kind of give them a bad running line, and then the second race out is when they do their damage. But fortunately, these days, most of the reporting sites they will show these running line. They'll show these percentages like a second or even a third off the layoff when that applies. So you can't really fool people as much anymore because those statistics are now readily available. You don't have to go out and spend extra money for them. They come with your sheets. And so I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that's how the trainer does in general, but I'm also looking at how the horse does. And I'm looking how each horse does off layoff lines. Generally, you're going to have, with experienced horses, you're going to have two, three, four layoff lines in there. And it's easy enough to just look and see how the horse did off the layoff. And, if he's won a couple of them and maybe close second in another, this is a horse that can fire off the layoff. And this is someone you can use. Now, that's mitigated by something you mentioned, Steve. I think that ability diminishes as the horse gets older. So if a horse, when he was, 3, 4, 5-year old, was firing off the layoff, he might not be the same animal at 7, and you have to use that as a grain of salt with an older horse. Everybody's abilities diminish, Steve. Even ours are going to diminish at some point. Of course,
Well, that hasn't happened, Jay, for sure.
exactly. We're nowhere near that just yet. But, it happens to the best of us. Nobody beats Father Time. So, these horses will definitely as they get older, will not bounce back as quickly. I mean, I know that my knees and ankles, after a long walk, vigorous hike, are not quite what they used to be. So, mentally, I'm as sharp as I ever was. Physically, it's not quite the same story. I'm not going to be doing any marathons anytime soon. Also, when I look at the works, you have to really associate the works with certain trainers. Certain trainers are known to work them fast. Bruce Headley, the late Bruce Headley, was an example of a guy that worked his horses in breakneck speed all the time. Bob Baffert's horses generally work really fast. And when you see slower works from a Baffert horse, it's generally a negative sign because Bob's used to working them fast. He lets them run. He doesn't really push them beyond their means, I don't think, but he doesn't try to hold them back either. And then you look at a guy, the classic example I give is a guy like Bob Hess. Bob Hess, he works his horses at speeds you could time with a sundial.
Yeah, he
So
does.
when you see a fast work from a trainer like Bob Hess or others that are known to work them slowly, it's really meaningful because they're not trying to work, they're trying to hold them back, and the horse is working fast anyway. So those are some of the things I look at off a layoff, and I've had pretty good success over the years.
Absolutely. Those are very, very, very good points, Jay. Absolutely. Layoff horses, very important. Again, we're going to come into Del Mar and we're going to see some of these horses on shorter layoffs. I want you to keep this one trainer in mind. Phil D'Amato will be at 12 to 15% halfway through the Del Mar meet. All of his horses that are going to come off this short layoff are going to underachieve. And then he's going to explode with those second time. Second time, Phil D'Amato. I'm giving out a great angle. This is one I've always used at Del Mar. Phil's horses are going to win. He's going to win some races. He's got very good horses, and he's trying. I think he's trying. But I think he really tightens the screws that second race at Del Mar. Remember that, folks. Second time off the layoff, trainer patterns, all the stuff that Jay mentioned, agree with a lot of it. And I do agree with looking at the horses on the track. Really something hard to explain and hard to tie in. I think those front wraps and just the look of the horse, the conformation, and maybe not something I'm expert at that I could actually explain, but because I've watched the races and you have as well, Jay, for so long, and we're looking at a horse, I can kind of get the feeling when a horse is a little bit ouchy, just the way they're warming up. That's really hard to explain what I'm looking at, but I think it's also an important part and maybe one of the few things that are left where we can separate ourselves because there's a lot of good information out there and a lot of things, trips are getting overbet, numbers are getting overbet, and there's a lot of things that are getting overbet. But the late things that you can do watching horses work out on the track, the visual stuff that you were talking about, front wraps on, that type of thing, I think is still in play and can still be used.
Yeah, no question.
So, all right, Jay, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to take it easy a little bit here. I think we'll be back in a week or two, but just keep an eye on. I don't think we've made any final decisions, but we're going to try to do a regular show. Jay, correct me if I'm wrong here. We're going to try to do a regular show during the Del Mar meet,
Yeah,
and we're going to be. Go ahead.
Absolutely, Steve. But before we go, why don't we touch on that San Juan Capistrano?
Oh yeah, it's such a long race, Jay. I forgot about it.
Yeah. Steve, you followed this race for years. You know a lot about it. Why don't you lead us off and then I'll chime in with my little gems of wisdom.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Didn't how could I ever want to forget about this race? Jay, here's something that's real important to me in this San Juan Capistrano. We don't see a whole lot of races at this distance, right? A mile and that we see this Hasta La Vista that they run. I don't even know if you know about this race at Turf Paradise every year at a mile and 7/8. There's a
I
couple
do.
2 mile races run at Gulfstream. They do run some races in New York that are at this long distance. Something that's extremely important is saving ground in these races. What I have a real issue with in these races, and maybe make it more important than in a regular race, is getting a jockey that's not conscious of that. So that's a real important factor. It might not be as an important a factor. So when I'm looking at the San Juan Capistrano, I did come up with a horse that I like, but I am concerned, and it's enough of a concern where if I didn't get the price that I wanted, I would probably lay off of this horse because I just don't know that this is a what I would consider a ground saving rider, and I will get to that. But I just think it is so essential. If you think about it again, Thoroughgraph, Ragozin, they've tracked hundreds of thousands of races for sure, maybe even millions, but hundreds of thousands for sure, right? And when you go 2 turns, it's super important. When you're going 3 turns, or how many turns are there in the San Juan Capistrano? There's a lot, because you're running the hill race and then you're running a mile race after that, right? So in the hill race, you want to be outside. You're actually saving ground early. So if you have a really smart rider that's outside and he cuts the corner down the hill, and then when they go around that first turn, he takes a tuck on the inside, whether he's on the lead or not, that is a giant advantage going that far, because you can save a ton of ground in that race. So to me, it's very important. So I did mention that I like the horse in there, and the horse is Divine Propo. I don't have the morning line yet, by the way. If you do,
No,
let
it's
me
not out
know.
yet.
He's in the 7 hole. He's toward the outside, which I think is actually okay, because I think he's going to get that outside position, which coming down the hill, you're going to be close to that outer fence. And then if you cross over and go to the inside. But here's my issue. It's Ricardo Gonzalez is riding. And Gonzalez, to me, I'm not sure what the affair is with D'Amato. I love Phil, as we mentioned before, but I sure don't like this rider on this horse. Now, Pursue has ridden this horse before. Saez rode the horse last time when they shipped to Pimlico. And I actually thought the last race that he ran with Gonzalez, when the big boys went away, Gonzalez got on this horse and he ran a good second to Attilian, who's been a Tietlin, who's been around these parts and winning at these longer distance races. I think Miss Astor is going to be very tough. I'm circling the rider there. It's Umberto Rispoli. What's Umberto going to do? What he always does. He's going to save ground. He's outside, so he's going to cut the corner on this filly, and filly versus the boys, no factor for me. I love filly in long races versus boys all day. So I think Miss Astor is more likely. I'm very interested in Divine Propo, but I'm very disappointed that Ricardo Gonzalez is riding. I'd have to see what the morning line is. These are my top 2 horses. Hard to advise anybody how to bet. I don't know what the morning line is, but that's the way I see the San Juan Capistrano.
Steve, we often differ, but we're on the same 2 horses, except I'm a little bit reversed. As far as the situation with Ricardo, Ricardo is dating Jessica Pfeiffer, former Apprentice of the Year, now a commentator. Jessica Pfeiffer also happens to be Phil D'Amato's stepdaughter. So basically, there's kind of a relationship there that's kind of built in the way Corey Nakatani used to date Wally Delassie's daughter and eventually married
That's
her.
true.
So yeah, there does have that. There is that reason why Ricardo gets certain mounts from Phil. Not that he's Phil's first call rider or anything like that. But I would say that Ricardo is more of a dirt sprint jockey.
He
Frankly,
really is.
he's more in the Edwin
100%.
Maldonado role. And this would seem to be like the antithesis of a Ricardo Gonzalez type of trip. Having to go all this long and balance the horse, the horse's speed and stamina to go 1.75 miles, the longest race on Santa Anita. I would say this is really a stretch for Ricardo's abilities. And while Rispoli has been doing this stuff in Italy, and then when he came over here, I mean, he's ridden way longer races than this in Italy, where they go much farther. So, he's kind of a master at this. And this is actually because it, goes, down the hill and then all around 3 turns. This is almost considered the closest thing to a European style race you can find. It is tailor made for Rispoli. And I really love Mrs. Astor. I think she has more tactical speed. I think she'll be in front of Divine Propos. None of these horses, by the way, you'll notice, has run this distance. It's unusual when they do. Basically, in this particular case, I see Reese will having a big edge. The only question is, Mrs. Astor is cross-entered in the possibly perfect tomorrow, and that's a much easier field of fillies. And does she want to go there and go for the easy win, or are they going to send her against the boys for the bigger money and the graded stakes black type? We're going to find out. We'll find out tomorrow, or
I'm not so sure that it is a tougher field, Jay. I mean, really, to me, there's several horses in here that I just think are lineouts. We've been following Niti for quite some time. Took that horse forever to break maiden. You know, Four Arrogate, Maltese Falcon has some decent back races. I don't know. To me, these two tower over the rest. Balladeer seems past his prime. He's going to go to the lead. They are taking blinkers off. Maybe that'll help him. It is Kent D, and I do like that. But boy, to me, these two just tower over the rest, and I just it's just hard unless you're really getting the price to play Gonzalez to do the right things over Rispoli, who is going to do the right things. I think we're in agreement there.
Yeah, if he's there, but he may not be. Actually, we'll find out Saturday morning, not tomorrow. But yeah, I've always looked forward to this race. It's the highlight of the season. I used to like that little short sprint race toward the end as well. Do you remember what I'm talking? Was it the what the heck was it? There used to be almost.
Conejo, the 5 furlong race.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always love these. They were the exact opposite. You had the little El Conejo and you had this big long San Juan Capistrano, and they were often sometimes they were on the same day. But this race has just such history. It's been won by Seabiscuit, it's been won by John Henry, and Charlie Whittingham, the late Charlie Whittingham, just absolutely dominated this with 14 wins. So in terms of the jocks, Shoemaker and Longden, 5 apiece. So this race is a big part of Santa Anita history, and really looking forward to this latest renewal. Even if there's no Seabiscuits or John Henry in here, it's always a great race regardless.
Yeah, I'm going to take you back in time. There was the late trainer Barry Abrams, who I was fortunate enough to have dinner with one night, and what a spectacular human being he was. Just absolutely love the guy. I love people when you just are just having fun listening to them talk. I don't think I said more than 2 words the whole night. I was just listening to him tell stories. But for those of you who weren't familiar with Barry Abrams, Unusual Heat, who actually was an incredible sire, really turned out to be the best thing that he did, and he was involved with that horse as a sire. But he entered a horse named Bengal Bay in the El Conejo and in the San Juan Capistrano and wanted to run them both on the same day. He wanted to run a horse in a 5.5. Do you remember that by chance? He wanted to run a horse in a 5.5 and in a 1.75 miles. I know he didn't end up running them, and it might have been back-to-back days or it might have been the same day, but it was really incredible that he entered. He was the king of bringing horses back with very little rest. He was not necessarily a Ragozin or Thoroughgraph aficionado with that quick return, and that would have been the quickest return of all. 5.5 and a 1.75 miles in the same day.
Yeah, yeah. Barry was the king of the 3-day layoff. So yeah, basically he was the Tom Thibodeau of horse racing training.
Yes, he was. All right. Anything else you have to add? You want to tell the fans, or are we on our way out the door?
Well, we'll just finish up. There was some news that Churchill Downs has not resumed its license for fairgrounds, and we don't know what that means. It could mean a lot of things. They don't want to operate it because of a dispute with the video terminals, but at the same time, this is not necessarily a bad thing. What could happen is Louisiana might take over the fairgrounds meet. They did at one point, and Maryland has just taken over the meet from the Stronachs. That wouldn't be a bad thing. If they do happen to close, I'm sure the bigger races like the Louisiana Derby and the Fairground Oaks will go to a competitor like Oaklawn or Gulfstream, just like Santa Anita has picked up the Hollywood Gold Cup and the Yellow Ribbon, and I think the Yellow Ribbon's actually at Del Mar. But I think these traditional like 3-year-old tests will go on. And I will say, I do think just in general, Steve, based on the current horse population and breeding we have, there might be a little too much racing. We found that out in California, where there just wasn't a horse population to support Northern California and Southern California. And I don't think if a little consolidation happens, it's the worst thing because it'll mean bigger fields for the tracks that are still going. So, we'll find out what happens and we'll report on this as it shakes out. But there's nothing that I think is going to be really bad for racing out of this. I think we'll come out of it just fine.
Now, this is the first year I followed the fairgrounds in about 20 years, Jay, and I thought the turf racing down there was pretty decent. So, and I did follow it because I just thought it would maybe give me a little bit of an edge in the NHC this year. But I would be very disappointing if they did cancel racing there. You know, that big Louisiana Derby has been a great day there for years, and we've seen horses run very, very well in the Kentucky Derby that have come out of that race. So would certainly be a circuit that we would miss. And gosh, we just keep losing these circuits. And I took it a little differently. I don't know that there's a positive that I can find out of it. I certainly hope they can figure things out and continue to run down there. You get some big time barns running down there, including Brad Cox and Steve Asmussen. They're both down there with big barns. So hopefully they'll find a way to keep that going. And boy, we just can't. Every one of these that we lose is just terrible.
Yeah, I hope so. But I think we'll come out of it fine. I think those races will survive. But yeah, it'd be nice, for instance, if Louisiana just took it over the way Maryland's taking over Pimlico. No reason why they can't. It's not like Louisiana's broke. So we'll keep an eye on the situation and we'll let people know what's going on. And yeah, we'll probably be back sometime the next couple of weeks. I know I'll be out of town for 4th of July, and I think you're going out of town sometime around that time too. But yeah, hopefully the goal here is that when the big season hits, the one everyone cares about, Del Mar and Saratoga, we'll shoot for every week for that season and really try to give people their money's worth. And speaking of money's worth, you can get our selections at www.racingjason.com. Steve puts up a card Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I put up a full card on Saturdays and usually a best bets card on Sunday. So please go there if you want to take advantage and purchase our handicapping selections, as many of you have done for many years. We're still there, and we're still there to hopefully serve you and serve you up some winners.
Yeah, listen, thanks everybody for listening. I just want to tell everybody that tomorrow's card's terrible. The Friday card, I thought it was really bad. Saturday's card I like. Sunday's card looks a little better. I've just looked at the entries, but don't worry about Friday. It's as far as calling my line, it's a bad card. I do want to mention one of our other sponsors, Tri-Level Office Support. Jay, this is a very hardworking lady that can take care of any of your needs as far as accounting and I'm sorry, something else happened here on the side. As far as accounting goes, human resources, and if you need any help with bookkeeping, mainly bookkeeping, 619-987-6244. Office administration, human resources, and bookkeeping. That's Tri-Level Office Support. They're a sponsor for us. They're probably not going to pay us based on what I just said, Jay. I was quite mad with that, but seriously, Tri-Level Office Support, very solid. Been helping us out with some stuff, and they could certainly help you out. 619-987-6244, Tri-Level Office Support.
Terrific. And if you're a potential sponsor, we're glad to have these sponsorships coming aboard. We're trying to build this channel from the ground up. And please feel free to leave us a comment at Horse Racing World Channel if you're interested in joining our roster of sponsors. And we'll be happy to talk to you about it and give you some plugs and hopefully grow your business too.
All right, Jay. All right. Well, that's a wrap for us. Everybody have a great day out there. And we'll look forward to talking to everybody in a few weeks.
All right. We'll see you then.